Recollections May Vary, a royal recap. I'm Kinsey Schofield here with Mark Dolan, host of The Mark Dolan Show on YouTube, a broadcaster who's never afraid to cut through the noise and call things exactly as he sees them. Today, we're dissecting highlights from Tom Bower's latest book, Betrayal, Power, Deceit, and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family. Mark, you and I both had a chance to talk to Tom Bower, but we don't get unlimited time with him. So I thought it would be fun if we went over some of the parts that we didn't get to ask him about and kind of pick each other's brains about how amazing this book is, all of the details, and just Bower's great research. What's your take?
Most definitely. Well, my take is that Tom Bower is not doing a hatchet job on the couple here. This is not a guy with an axe to grind. He's not a bitter man. He's not malevolent. He's not vengeful. He's a journalist. His North Star is the truth. So it's not an attack on the couple. It's just a calm, dispassionate account of two of the most shallow, hypocritical, narcissistic human beings on the planet. There's actually not much opinion in there. It's just an amazing set of accounts of what the couple have been up to since his previous best-selling book about the Sussexes. You know, he's very even-handed. When he was on my Talk TV show, you know, I kind of thought that he would say that really it's a loveless marriage and that Harry knows he's made a mistake. And he said, no, he suspects that Harry is in love with Meghan and that it's quite a solid marriage. So it's a nuanced and balanced book. I mean, we could do a whole show on every chapter, couldn't we?
Yeah.
But he's a world-class journalist. It's unflattering to the couple because, in my view, they're horrible people. So therefore, a book about them is going to make for unpleasant reading. And we know that they want to have their cake and eat it. They're quite happy to use those royal titles whilst attacking the royal family. They're quite happy to say they need privacy and then write books and do TV shows. So it's all in the book. I think it's a very fair book. It's a page turner. It's absolutely fascinating. And also, I'm just processing what Harry has put his family through, particularly the late Queen Elizabeth II. I think some of those passages with, you know, the anger, the sadness, the upset, the anguish that the Queen suffered, which Tom Bower has carefully detailed. And of course, we've seen it from Hugo Vickers' book as well. We're going to see it from Robert Hardman's book. You know, all of the journalists, all the biographers. Duncan Larkham was on my show the other day, Harry's biographer. And they're all unanimous in saying that Harry treated his grandmother, Elizabeth, so badly.
It's true. It's so sad. Well, one of the highlights for me was, first of all, I mean, incredible sourcing. Bower talks to several of the charities associated with Harry and Meghan that seem to walk away from their experiences with the Sussexes incredibly disappointed by their behavior. And one of the highlights I thought was Meghan saying, 50 times during her one young speech. To quote Bower, it says, Meghan had agreed that her short speech in Manchester would focus on empowering women and gender equality. Pointedly, she was asked not to speak about herself and not to wear expensive clothes. The Robertsons, who are his source that he spoke to, were baffled after her speech. It's just really hard to see that she's ever been a leader on anything other than her own image. You know, this was such a sensitive time, Mark, because the Sussexes had just really given the finger to the British royal family, and within days, the Queen passes away. So Meghan really was at this event trying to toot her own horn. Little does she know that this event kind of blows up in her face because the Queen passes away and it makes them look so selfish and self-consumed. And when you mention 50 times in a speech, I mean, that's not a great look.
It's not a great look. And as Tom Bower writes in that chapter, she drags Harry back to the UK for this appearance. She convinces him it's absolutely essential. That's a theme of the book. What Meghan wants, Meghan gets. Yes, Harry is in love with her, or I don't know, I would argue under her spell. I think he's a victim of her love bombing and her controlling behavior. I think he's got Stockholm syndrome, but it manifests as love and he does what he's told. It's a combination of, I think, in love, in lust and fearful, with no backbone, a bit like his father, I've got to say. They're both decent men, but they haven't got any moral courage and they're not strong personalities in the way that, say, William is, or the late Prince Philip, who wouldn't have taken any of this nonsense and saw Meghan for what she was from day one, referring only to her, Meghan, as the American, which I think is very apt. So yeah, so she drags Harry back to the UK. She makes its appearance. It's all about me, me, me. But that's the Meghan that we know. Totally self-obsessed. She's done the same thing at Invictus. Do you remember that extraordinary footage of her leading the parade in quite a revealing white suit,
Oh,
loads of flesh? And she's at Invictus, which is an amazing, fabulous organization. It's there to celebrate injured servicemen and women who are competing at elite level sport. They're all heroes. They're all legends. They're heroes twice over, aren't they? In battle, fighting for Western values and our freedom. And then in the sporting endeavour, having rebuilt their lives and their bodies. But of course, Meghan turns up. Look how able-bodied I am. I'm going to throw my legs around. I'm so beautiful. I'm so pretty. And my whole body works perfectly. You're welcome. I mean, it's so obnoxious. And do you know something, Kinsey? I mean, this is the hardy perennial, right? Is Meghan clever or not?
mm.
And I mean, I don't know what you think about this, and I still haven't got an answer. I actually think she is smart. That's certainly the view of Charlie Ray, because the three of us met a few weeks ago and he said he thinks she's pretty intelligent, pretty strategic. Tom Bower thinks she is. Lady Elizabeth Anson, I've been looking again at her diary notes as published by Sally Bedell Smith in her excellent Royal Substack. And if just revising some of those remarks that Anson made, of course, the Queen's best friend and cousin and closest confidant, and Bedell Smith and Elizabeth took the view that Meghan was smart and that Harry wasn't very smart and was being taken in by Meghan. And Anson said, we don't think that Meghan, unfortunately, has married for love. It looks like she's engineered this marriage. Well, of course, the Queen was right. Philip was right. The American Lady Anson was right. And the biographers have all picked up on it. So I think that Meghan is smart. I think she's driven. I think she's strategic. What's interesting about her personality, Kinsey, is she has no discernible talent. She's not an actress. She's not a TV host. She was a shocking princess, not much of a daughter. And we can debate whether she's a good mother or not. I think she's a bad mother because she puts her kids on Instagram, which is deeply unethical and wrong. So I think she's intelligent, strategic, driven, and smart. Her great talent is getting what she wants. That is her superpower. And that's a mixture of application, focus, picking up on people's weaknesses, seizing opportunities. But for all of that, she's got a huge Achilles heel, and it's her blind spot. No self-awareness. And
Mm.
that's how she can make a speech. Because Kinsey, you're a fabulous human being. We go back many years. You couldn't make a speech that has the word I 50 times because you're a really nice person and you have self-reflection and self-awareness. So Megs is smart, she's driven, she's strategic, but she's got a crazy blind spot. And that's why she'll always have bad PR. That's why she'll always have these, train wreck moments. Paris was a disaster, wasn't it? Paris Fashion Week. Australia is going to be a disaster. It already is. We can come to that if you like. With they've slashed the prices of the tickets for Harry's amazing mental health speech. They're looking at property in Australia. So everything Meghan does, right? She's very driven and she's good at getting the prince and she gets her opportunities. She can't see things through because she's not self-reflective. She's got a massive blind spot.
I was thinking about this to your point while I was getting ready to see you doing my makeup. Daily Mail is reporting today that Meghan is likely going to open a Soho house in Australia, which we reported on Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered about a month ago. Rob Shooter had told me that while I was in New York, and I reported it on Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. And I was thinking, she thinks of Soho House as this end all be all or special club clique, for the elites. Yet, and that's why she wants to be associated with it, because all of the, you have to be approved to be in this club. You have to pay ungodly fees. They reject so many people at the door, and she likes the elite club. Can you imagine choosing Soho House over the British royal family? Like, the British royal family is also a club of elites. You have to be
Yeah.
born or married into it. It's one of the most established celebrated institutions in the world. Mark, can you imagine choosing a tacky Soho house over being a working British royal? I cannot fathom it.
It is so shocking, but that's because Meghan is transactional and she's quite comfortable with the idea of paying a membership to get into the elite. That's how she does it. And we know that when it comes to the British aristocracy and the royal family, and I think it's the same for aristocrats, wealthy, long established blue blooded families in North America too, is that you don't buy your way in. You have to have a certain pedigree and you have to be discreet. Meghan was none of those things. There's a great line from the film With Nail and I in regards to access to the elite. And the line is that it's free to those that can afford it and very expensive to those that can't. Meghan is the perennial wannabe. And that's why Soho House is perfect for her, because you can just buy your access to celebrities and other public figures. Whereas it just comes so naturally to the royal family. Now, full disclosure, Kinsey, I am also a member of Soho House. And so I live in terror of bumping into Harry in the toilets.
Oh my gosh, if you do,
Because
I hope I'm the first call you make.
well, he's gonna eyeball me, isn't he? Go, oh, are you Mark Dolan? You're always having a go at me on your show. It's really unfair. And also, I don't sound like that. And
He
God
actually does. You sound
knows,
exactly like him.
God knows what Harry gets up to in the toilets of Soho House, but I'm sure his body's a temple these days. And but yeah, so the bottom line is that I know the Soho House scene, and it's very much you go there, you pay your membership, and you want to be seen, you want to make connections, and I've got no problem with that. She's going to be surrounded by high achievers, but here's the other thing: she's persona non grata in royal circles, and the aristocracy never liked her because they just thought she was this upstart from California, which she is. But the Soho House celebrity elite aren't going to be happy either with this woman. They'll be avoiding her as they chug their mojitos and Aperol spritz, because look at what's happening in Hollywood in regards to Meghan. We haven't had a squeak out of Oprah Winfrey, that lives pretty close to the couple in Montecito, even though Meghan gave Oprah the big scoop of that interview. Do you remember when they were friendly with the Clooneys? Do you remember when Gwyneth and Meghan were on pretty decent terms? And what about the Obamas? All of the celebrities, the political and showbiz elite, have ditched the couple. Don't get me started on the Kardashians, who detest Harry and Meghan now. And what about Elton? What about Elton? Now, do you remember how close Harry and Elton were after Megxit?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're kind of waiting to see if we get a response. Maybe in that particular case, that could be related to the trial. We'll have
Well,
to.
it could be. Well, was it in 2020 that Elton flew Harry and Meghan to his south of France mansion
Yes, but
because
in Bauer's
they
book,
needed
doesn't
shelter?
but in Bauer's book, doesn't he say there was an ulterior motive there? I mean, it's been like a week since I finished it, but doesn't he say that there was an
Yeah.
ulterior, and it was to get Harry on board of this litigation because Elton John and his husband wanted to pursue some of the media outlets, and they knew that if they had Harry on board, it would attract a lot of attention and maybe impress a judge. And so it feels like there was always kind of an ulterior motive there, and that was to help Elton John, or I don't know. But that's kind of
Well,
what.
no, that's right, and you're right that Tom wrote that, and I just don't fully agree because first of all, I don't think Elton John needs help from anyone.
Yeah.
He's one of the biggest stars, not just alive today, but in the history of the planet. His net worth is approaching $1 billion. He sold almost as many records as the Beatles. He can take care of himself, and he does not need Harry to add weight to his legal action against the Daily Mail, the owners of the Daily Mail, the associated newspapers. And actually, it looks to be Harry's case against the Mail, which is weaker than Elton's, because there are serious allegations within that case being reflected on now by Mr. Justice Nicklin, who, by the way, is probably on the happy pills because he spent 4 weeks, 6 weeks in the company of Prince Harry, which would depress anyone. And of course, we got the Charlotte Griffith stuff at the end, which is wild. But there are some suggestions from that case that the birth certificate of Elton John's child was received by the press before Elton and his partner David received it, which is truly
Wow.
horrific. If that's
Wow.
true, then EJ is going to take the mail to the cleaners. But Harry's case looks a bit more flimsy if you look at the strong defense from Charlotte Griffiths and Rebecca English and Paul Dacre, the former editor. So, I'm not 100% convinced that Tom is right about that Elton needed Harry on board. And I think that Elton and Diana were very close, of course, before she died. And it was a mercurial relationship because she admired him because she loved pop stars. She loved pop music. She was a big fan of George Michael, as you know. She loved Elton. And Elton was close to the royal family. Elton in the 80s danced with the Queen, for goodness sakes. So
Yeah.
he was embedded. And the couple of things happened. So he fell out. Elton falls out with everyone. He's incredibly, I mean, I love the man. I think he's a genius, but he's very temperamental, very mercurial. And he flips out at the slightest thing. Diana agreed to do a period of charity event that he was involved with. She pulled out at the last minute. He was incandescent. Didn't speak to her for months. Then Gianni Versace gets shot dead in Los Angeles. He's at the funeral. She comforts him. You've seen the pictures. I think, isn't he sandwiched between Diana and George Michael, which is a bit of a sandwich.
Yeah.
And
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 Carolyn
then
Bessette Kennedy sitting right behind them.
well, that's just, it's the biggest mic drop, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he's comforted by her. And then, so Diana's back. They're the closest bosom buddies. And then the greatest tragedy ever happens. We lose Diana. Elton's in pieces. He sings at the funeral. It's my understanding he therefore took ownership of William and Harry. I'm going to look after those boys. Elton had quite a sad, lonely childhood and felt orphaned by his father, who never loved him or gave him support. And so it's my understanding that he wanted to take those boys under the wing. There has not been a single Instagram post or a reference in a TV interview on the radio, anything from Elton about Harry in at least 3 years, maybe 4 years. And I think there's a froideur there. And I think that for Harry to have potentially fallen out with Elton, who was his sort of working godfather, tells you how isolated a figure he now is.
I think that's a fair point because if we are considering the trial, that came to fruition in 2022. So that does give, that's a long time between now and then that we
Well, I
haven't
mean, are
seen
there
anything
any
from them.
celebrities that still like Harry and I don't want to be unkind, Kinsey,
Well,
but
I
I
thought it
feel
was
I've listed all the people. I mean, poor old Gwyneth Paltrow, because you know Gwyneth, right, is
yeah,
she's, by the way, can I say a couple of things?
yeah,
She's had a lot of criticism for the vaginal legs.
yeah.
I'm wearing three at the moment. I've never felt better.
Oh my God, Mark.
Mm. Yeah. Everything's flowing.
Everything, yeah, you are top,
Mm.
you're at the top of your game thanks to those
But
GPEs. Hey guys, your skincare might be more toxic than your food. Can you believe it? Just like choosing healthy food, we need to be careful about what we put on our body. I've become hyper aware of every product I use, reading labels, researching ingredients, realizing just how many toxic chemicals we let into our daily routine. Check the label on your moisturizer. It reads like a lab report. Swap your toxic moisturizer for Cow Guy's Tallow Balm. This is a natural hydrating balm with ingredients you can actually pronounce. It's safe and more effective than conventional alcohol or water based lotions, and your skin will be glowing. Tallow Balm was used for generations before Big Pharma ruined skincare. Use it as a lotion on your hands, arms, legs, face, and lips. Use it for eczema, psoriasis, dry, or normal skin as an everyday moisturizer. Plus, it's American made and rancher owned in the great state of Texas. I'm from Texas. It's the best tallow balm you can find. Search up cowguys.com to get your tallow balm and get a mini tallow balm for free. No special code needed. That's 3 to 4 months of moisturizer for just $34. Search cowguys.com to grab free tallow balm with your order.
I actually really respect Gwyneth, okay, because she's won an Oscar. I know she's a Nepo baby.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
You can get an acting agent because your mother is Blythe Danner and your father was Bruce Paltrow, the director. You don't Nepo babies don't get Oscars.
Yeah.
And Nepo babies don't start a website called Goop, which now turns over millions of dollars. Gwyneth is everything that Meghan wants to be, a lifestyle entrepreneur and Oscar-winning actress. Neither of those things have happened. But you know, Gwyneth was dragged into that hostage video comedy sketch Was because Gwyneth, I mean, I don't know what you think about that, but Gwyneth Paltrow did in my opinion, a mocking parody of Meghan's Netflix show because she's there making breakfast in her pajamas. There's a dog, there's a little wink to the camera. And I thought it was a piss take, basically. And then clearly Gwyneth's management have like received the wrath of Meghan's public relations people who never sleep. And then they did that awkward kind of everything's fine video. And since then, again, it's another celebrity that hasn't been a squeak out of Gwyneth about Harry and Meghan.
Right. And then there was that G7, I think, summit in the Hamptons that Meghan went to where Gwyneth Paltrow was, Reese Witherspoon was. This is before the Instagram video, but no one wanted to take pictures with Meghan at that summit. I think the Spanx girl took pictures with Meghan at that summit and Jamie Kern Lima, but Meghan rode on Jamie's private jet to get to that summit. Um, yeah, I mean, there was also, remember Kerry Washington, the actress from Scandal, had an event and Jessica Alba was there. Maybe it was a birthday party last year, and we saw Meghan at that. And I just saw the same group of friends at a book launch, and it was called like Soul Sisters, spiritual soul sister or something. I don't know. It's a manifestation book launch, which is very Meghan. And she had an event at Godmother. She did an event with Jessica Alba and Kerry Washington. And I noticed Meghan Markle wasn't there. Bauer also talks about how Hillary Clinton came to console Meghan at one point. And there was even talk that Hillary Clinton was going and Chelsea were going to have Meghan on a podcast of theirs. That never came to fruition. So it
Right.
does feel like people are dropping like flies around them.
Yeah, and that's why I think that the Soho House thing, it's fine. You know, she's best mates with the guy that runs it, no problem. But it's only going to be the Z-listers that crowd around her for a photo op. It's not going to be any of the big names. I mean, this would transform her fortunes. If I became the 57th PR agent working with the couple, because they get through PR people like James Corden gets through Krispy Kreme donuts, doesn't it? The, the turnover is wild. They either leave because they're just so battle hardened and PTSD, or they get fired because Meghan's a perfectionist and nothing is good enough. But if I was advising them, you know, I would say that you need a couple of famous allies. You need the brand value from a really well-known actor or an artist, a Beyonce, someone like that, a Taylor Swift. That would do them the power of good, but it ain't gonna happen.
No, and Tyler Perry, I think, would have been that for them, but he's got his own scandals that he's dealing with multiple civil issues, men accusing him and former employees accusing him of sexual harassment and assault. So you don't want Tyler Perry stepping up for you because then we're reminded that, and that's why I know people scold me for comparing Harry and Meghan to Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew, but my point is that they don't do their due diligence and they are so desperate and greedy that they will associate with whoever pays the highest or whoever's going to give them the positive headline. And inevitably, I feel like they could end up in a similar position to Andrew and Fergie if they continue not to be careful who they associate
Oh,
with.
that's an absolutely brilliant point. I think I really hadn't thought about that. That's a great line
Thank you.
that Harry and Meghan could become the new Andrew and Fergie. I mean, that's the nightmare scenario. That is just the point of no return. They're not there yet, are they? But I guess they're flirting with that, which is a mind-blowing thought. And they've got to make sure that they steer away from harm. And as I said to you the last time we got together with the brilliant Charlie Ray, I just don't see any sunny uplands. I don't see any green shoots. I almost feel sorry for the couple. I don't know where they're going to go from here. Harry was on $1 million per speaking engagement. Now it's 50K, which is great money for you and I. But with the management and the PR and the overheads and the tax, it doesn't touch the sides, does it? And we know that the As Ever brand is absolutely in the toilet now, with Netflix having pulled out. And if you caught the latest developments, I think this is a scoop from page 6, which is that Netflix lost millions in their partnership with Meghan in the retail project. That they are minus, they've had to take a massive bath on that.
I mean, I think you're right. I feel a little sorry for them too, but I especially feel sorry for Harry because I think that that's really his only option. And I think he hates it. You don't sit in a Toronto Hilton in front of real estate agents and talk about your deceased mother. That's not, I don't think that he is built for that life.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise, I think he would have figured it out by now that nobody wants to hear your victimhood story. You need to turn it into a uh, you need to turn it into a look where I am today, despite what's happened to me in my past. People don't want to listen to this overprivileged, entitled prince wallow in his own misery. And he's being paid, like you said, thousands of dollars for that. I think that that's really his only clear path to have to do these speeches. And I mean, he even said in Washington, D.C. last week during the privacy summit that he's been a victim his entire life of privacy. You know, nobody's
Mm.
respected his privacy since birth. That's not why people are paying thousands of dollars, or at least $1,000 in the case of $1,800 in DC, to watch you speak. He just doesn't get it. And I think that if he was built for this world
Yeah.
of public speaking and motivational speaking, he would have gotten it by now and he would have a new cell and a new speech prepared, but he just wants to wallow in his own misery. And people are like, good God, I don't have a house in Montecito and 16 bathrooms. I can't relate to you at all.
Well, you're so right. And that's one of the big themes of Tom Bower's book is that Meghan leveraged Harry's victimhood to get him out. She convinced him that this family are horrible, they're a bunch of racists, they're cold, they're insensitive. And she turned Harry, in my humble opinion, against his own family. And he's rudderless at this point. I will accept Tom Bower's argument that actually Harry loves Meghan, that he's in love with her. I also think he's in lust with her because these Mountbatten Windsors are very libidinous men. And it's my understanding that he always found Meghan crazy hot, and that continues to this day. And who knows whether that's leveraged? That's a private matter that we'll never be able to know or get to the heart of. But the tragedy for Harry is he might be in love with her, he might be under her spell, but she's totally the wrong person for him, and it's totally the wrong life. And that's the tragedy. This is a round peg going into a square hole. That's their marriage. Because as you said, Harry shouldn't be making these speeches. He's not a public figure, he's not a politician. A politician has an ideological center of gravity. And, I've watched it. It doesn't matter whether it's Trump or Obama or, George W. Bush, any of these people, Clinton, and here in the UK, the likes of Nigel Farage, Thatcher back in the day, right? All these people, they have a political center of gravity. You could just wake them up in the middle of the night and just say, right, give me a 4-minute speech about how you're going to fix the country. And it would just flow very naturally. That's why they're politicians. They just think stuff. They are ideologically driven. Harry's an empty vessel. There's nothing there. So when he gets on stage, as you say, he winds up improving and getting on to Diana, which is just completely wild. It's not why they're there. It's inappropriate. I can imagine it horrifies William that he decides to exhume the ghost of Diana. It's tasteless. It's cynical. But like you said, there's nothing else. What's Harry going to talk about? He's not a very interesting guy. Just because you're famous and you're this global figure, it doesn't mean you've got anything to say. It doesn't mean you're compelling, which is why the public speaking's gone so bad. Maybe they could hire a speechwriter, but what would the speechwriter have to work with? What is Harry's brand apart from poor me, as you say? And the only interesting stuff is what happened when he was growing up and what it was like being a member of the royal family. And we've had that in the book Spare. So he's cashed it all in, hasn't he? The truth is that what Harry needs to do is he needs to be living in a farm in Africa, South Africa, maybe somewhere beautiful, the wilderness, and he's out fishing and he's hunting and he's in a 4x4 and he drinks beers in the evening and it's a simple life and he would be so happy. He doesn't crave anything that he's now got.
Yeah, I was going to say, while I think that that's exactly right, and that's the life of his dreams, how is Meghan Markle supposed to walk down a red carpet every night? If they're
And
off,
the why I'm cross with Meghan is because I think she convinced him that that's what the that she that was the life she wanted, and that's what Charlotte Griffiths told me on my Talk TV show is that Meghan performatively, Kinsey, was looking at properties in South Africa with no intention of ever living there.
now, I have to tell you guys about a complete game changer. Peak's liver detox protocol. You may not know it, but your liver handles a lot: energy, hormones, digestion, and even your mood. But with all the stress and toxins from everyday life, it needs some love. Forget harsh cleanses. Peak delivers gentle daily support inspired by traditional Chinese medicine. Their routine uses two simple blends. The first is a warming turmeric mix with cinnamon and black pepper, designed to help the body absorb it better and support the liver while calming inflammation. The second is a ginger and cinnamon blend that helps with blood flow, digestion, bloating, and immune support. The magic is how they work together to activate and flush for better digestion, stable energy, less brain fog, and that light, clear feeling. My energy is consistent now, skin is clear, and less bloating. Redefine your standard of health. Secure 20% off your order and begin your intentional wellness journey today at peaklife.com/Kinsey. That's PIQUE life.com/Kinsey. Also, I love when you were like, we'll never know what goes on behind the scenes physically. And I'm like, well, we learned a lot about the man's Todger and Spare. So, never say never, Mark. Never say never.
It's it's a good point. I mean, listen, we're all grown ups. This is the internet, Kinsey. It is the million-dollar question about their marriage and whether it's a complete marriage because there are two schools. Some people think now that it's really just a business arrangement, it's transactional, and that it's mutually convenient to stay together. And there are others, like Tom Bauer to a degree, who say, no, the marriage still has a blood supply, it's still healthy, and there's still passion there. What do you think?
I think that Prince Harry would never leave Meghan Markle, but I think Meghan Markle would leave Prince Harry if a better opportunity came along. And I do think that she believes professionally he holds her back. We read reports in People magazine, and we know that the Sussexes talk directly to People magazine. That's not just my opinion. They're featured. People magazine always gets the exclusives.
Yeah.
A source close to Meghan said that Meghan was tired of Harry pursuing all of this litigation because she felt like he was stuck in the past. I mean, that was okayed by somebody close to Meghan. And I think that that says a lot that she,
And Megan's right, by the way. Let this show. It doesn't have to be a narrative which is, unbending.
yeah,
Megan's right. Harry, move on. This was
right.
20 years ago. What is your problem here?
Exactly. And then he sits in court and cries about her, Meghan, and that's completely unrelated to any of the stories that he's presented to the judge. Meghan Markle comes
I'm
around
so glad
five
you
five
so
years
glad you
later.
mentioned that. But this case does not pertain to Meghan Markle. You're so why is her name even mentioned?
Yeah.
Because the guy is in a permanent state of tragedy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like King Lear at the end of King Lear, not the beginning. He's in the heath, going crazy, yelling at the sky. I mean, it's just
Exactly.
pathetic. And by the way, Kinsey, what happens if he loses? Yikes.
Well, I think that that's something he's probably prepared for after the defense presented those messages. I think that they have totally wrecked his credibility. And it looks as if he lied to the court, in my opinion. It looks as if he was dishonest with the judge regarding his relationship with some of the journalists based on
Do you mean
those.
do you mean my good friend G String?
Yeah, I do. CG string. Yep. Yep, I do. And
That is Charlotte Griffiths, who's the editor at large at the Mail on Sunday now. A good friend of mine. I'm sure she's a good friend of yours as well. But clearly they were very close. Harry claimed that he met her once and found out she was a journalist the next day and said, "Get rid." Meanwhile, there's a trail of emails, and it's movie snuggles, G String, and Mr. Mischief.
oh my gosh. I mean, and I think that if you are a respectable organization, and your focus is mental health or your focus is protecting children online, I think you have to second guess. inviting Harry to be one of your keynote speakers in the future if he loses this case, because he looks dishonest. He looks like he had an agenda, and perhaps he did just forget, Mark. Perhaps he just had a brain fart and he forgot about this textual relationship. But it's not a great look for him, and I think that it jeopardizes his credibility going forward as a thought leader.
I totally agree. I think that he's not a very honest man. He's not very bright as well. I mean, if you're going to lie, you have to have a good memory. That's, isn't it?
Write it
And
down. Write it down.
yeah, seriously. And I think that's, he thought he was home and hosed there with this, pity party in court. And then this robust position that he found out that Charlotte was a journalist. Well, I mean, who knows how far that relationship went, but let's just say that we can politely and legally say they were, at the very least, super close friends, intimately close friends, if not more. I mean, if you say movie snuggles and G-string, that doesn't sound very platonic to me, but that's fine. By the way, Harry's got previous on this. Let's not forget his visa application, because there's no way he would have got that visa if he'd said, I have taken mind altering substances. Well, then he writes the book Spare, in which he reveals he's taken mind altering substances. So either he lied in Spare or he lied on the visa. It can't be both.
Right. Yeah, I think it's fair that we question his recollections may vary is the nicest way we can put it. What before we wrap up, is there anything else that stood out to you in Bauer's book? I know we kind of went in all sorts of different directions,
Hmm.
but he gave us a lot of content to work with. We can't help ourselves.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I think the money stuff is interesting. The pressure they're under there. I mean, that's I think something they didn't anticipate with Megxit. I think they thought that the world was their oyster, and of course their stock value was very high, but it's plummeted. So I think that's very interesting, and because I'm soul searching as to what is their future, and in the book, looking at what Tom thinks about their prospects and the businesses and everything, it all paints quite a negative picture. I think Tom raises a question, really. Could they run out of money? What do you think?
Yes, but I want you to think about this. Like before Meghan met Harry, she was a gig she was in the gig environment, in the gig industry. So it was like trying to secure a commercial, trying to secure a voiceover, trying she gets suits, hits the jackpot with suits. But as Bauer says, which actually blows my mind in his book, let me see if I could find it quickly. If I can't, I'll just kind of read what I remember. He talks about her freezing her eggs and how she was getting written off suits. And oh, yeah. So he says at the time, Meghan was on the verge of losing her role in the cable TV series Suits and her Canadian boyfriend, too. Landing Harry had transformed the life of a single, potentially unemployed 34-year-old actress who had just confessed to her publicist that she planned to freeze her eggs. So she meets Harry, and like, just imagine this position. She's like begging for work, rejected after reject. Like, remember, she was auditioning for Shakira music videos. She got the pilot to the new Beverly Hills 90210. This is not a glamorous life. It's exhausting, and you're dealing with a lot of rejection. She lands Harry, and now her team in America is like, Vanity Fair wants you on the cover. Vogue all of a sudden wants to talk to you, and you're just the girl from Suits. I agree that she thought that her life was made after she started dating Harry. But
Yeah.
I think what happened was they alienated a lot of people with their negativity. They burned the British royal family, and a lot of people are still committed to the institution. And now, Mark, she's back in that gig economy where they're getting paychecks for 3-day retreats. They're getting paychecks for speeches. They're
Mm.
getting paychecks for promoting things on Instagram. She's back to where she started, paychecks for Soho House appearances. And that has to
Yeah.
be mind blowing and defeating in a way.
Definitely. You're so right. She's back to being a struggling artist. She's a hustler now, which she was back in the day. And the reason why she didn't have a long and storied career as an actress is because I think her ambition supersedes her talent. Like I said before, her great gift, her great superpower is getting what she wants. And I think that getting Suits was a manifestation of her drive, not her God-given abilities. And it's interesting because that section of the book makes you realize that's why Meghan was okay to relinquish her acting career, because in fact it had already gone. and
Yeah.
she knew that. And what this was, she didn't fall in love with Harry and suddenly have a career change. This was a conscious pivot. Okay, this was, a change in direction. Out of desperation, she's a hustler and she's going to survive come what may. And the problem is she's taking Harry with her on all of these different things. I mean, we had one series of the podcast, Confessions of Female Founder. We've had the completely dead on arrival retail brand. The Netflix stuff is subject to the law of diminishing returns. That you might get occasional specials here and there, but that's done and dusted because Netflix have lost money. So she has a little go at everything, and it gets more and more desperate, more and more embarrassing. And she knows no shame. So when I said to you earlier that she's got a blind spot, it's also a strength in a way because with that blind spot and the inability to self-reflect, it allows her to be shameless. But the problem is she can be shameless herself. She's being shameless on Harry's behalf as well.
Oh,
And, like, for example, featuring the kids on Instagram
Instagram.
over Easter, and I had Duncan on my show. Duncan Larkham knows Harry well. He said, Mark, I can tell you 99% chance that's from Meghan. Harry would not want that. He hates being famous. He doesn't want his kids to be celebrities. The guy's a passenger. So yeah, he's in the end, he is a hostage to Meghan's fortune now. And he's hitched his ride to Meghan. And this is somebody that's not very good at sticking with stuff, and she hasn't got the Midas touch. So I don't know. I see it as quicksand. I cannot. Yeah. Can you think, is there any good news for the couple as we close out this conversation? Can we be in any way positive about their prospects?
Well, I guess I'm curious to see how Australia goes for them because there are some that are reporting over in Australia that there is still interest in them and that they haven't tainted their fan base there as much as they have in America and the UK. So I think all eyes will be in Australia.
God, may God help us, and may God help the people of Australia.
That's so true. All right. I want everyone that's watching this to please go subscribe to the Mark Dolan Show. He's a dear friend of mine and he covers these types of stories regularly over there. And also, you can watch us together occasionally on his Talk TV program. So you can subscribe to Talk and see us there. Agree with us, disagree with us. We love to know what your opinion is too. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend.